Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambeau channel, and this is Rich. Here's a headline from Crypto News Flash. El Salvador made Bitcoin legal tender, but remittance firms are not adding Bitcoin as they fear extinction. So think about this. El Salvador, for those of you that hadn't heard, the president announced at that, it was during the Bitcoin conference in Miami recently, that in addition to the United States dollar, that Bitcoin would be legal tender in the country. And so one obvious, important implication right there would be the way that it's treated from a tax perspective. But in terms of Bitcoin actually being used alongside the United States dollar for regular transactions, nah. Technologically, let's just say that it's not there. There are a reason that you don't have merchants the world over widely accepting Bitcoin. It's costly, it's slow, it's energy intensive, all of this stuff. And so putting Bitcoin alongside the United States dollar, it's not going to be treated the same. So if it's just for tax implications, I don't have a beef with it. In fact, to me, it seems like a positive thing, just crypto getting adopted in a larger scale. I'm pro Bitcoin, mind you. I'm just realistic about its technological shortcomings. That's all. But I'm pro Bitcoin. I'm long Bitcoin. I hold it. I'm going to continue to hold it. And even so, remittance firms are like, nah. They're like, nah, bro, we ain't even want to touch that. That's basically what I'm seeing right here. And it's just so fascinating to me, the reasons why. But I do want to be clear at the outset that I don't have a financial background of any kind. I am not offering financial advice, and you should not buy or sell anything because of anything that I say or write. I'm just an enthusiast who enjoys making YouTube videos as a fun hobby, but that's all that's going on here. In we go. El Salvador announced recently that its legislature had approved the president's bill to make Bitcoin legal tender. The Central American country made history globally, but according to insiders, the road to adoption isn't as smooth. Sources have revealed that remittance firms in the country are reluctant to add Bitcoin to their payment options, despite being legal tender. Aside from a hike in compliance fees, they fear Bitcoin could erode the high fees they charge, which is the bedrock of their businesses. And by the way, I do want to say this too. In terms of high fees, like some people think that the higher the fee is for something, the more money the company that they're interacting with is making, which isn't necessarily the case. I mean, if you think about how remittances work, like, because mind you, like the world of correspondent banking, it's just a chain of bilateral banking relationships. So if you need to convert from one fiat currency to another, and there are 11 billion banks in between, and each has to take a little piece, well, that doesn't mean that the bank that you're interfacing with has some extraordinarily high profits. Like, they are subject, this is coming from, like, I'm a business owner, I have been for 11 years, they're still subject the same supply and demand economics of any industry that's not being manipulated by government anyway. And so they're taking their little piece and competing with other firms, and they have to have enough in order to fund their operations. But it isn't the case that just because there are high fees that the entity you're dealing with. So how do you get lower fees? Well, you chop out all the middlemen. That's a huge piece of this, which is why XRP is perfectly suited to be positioned as a bridge currency and functionally is today. But I just think that a lot of people have this idea, falsely so, that high fees means that banks and remittance firms are just making that much money. No. By and large, they're operating on very slim margins as is. It's just that there's a lot of other entities that have to take their slice. But if you remove all of that, the fees go down dramatically, just to be clear here. But anyway, El Salvador is highly reliant on remittances, which pay a large part in the local economy, and rightly so, as 25% of El Salvadorians live abroad. Remittances make up about 20% of the country's economy. Now, in 2020, Salvadorians abroad remitted about $4 billion to the country. And as such, this is one of the sectors that could greatly benefit from Bitcoin adoption. And so I'm not convinced of that just because of not Bitcoin being the solution anyway, just because of technologically what Bitcoin is, how slow it is, how costly it is. But yes, there is this idea that you could knock out the need for remittance firms if in a world where everybody has adopted crypto, and it'll never be the case that 100% of humans are, but you're edging more in that direction anyway. But in a world where, let's just say, crypto is widely adopted, why do you even need remittance firms? Why do you need banks? Well, in the case of banks, you do need banks for a number of different things, including loans, maybe custody solutions, this or that. You're going to see banks continue to shift over time, as any business in any industry does, as changes arrive. But as far as remittance firms, if they're not going to do something else, like, what do you need a remittance firm for? Ultimately, in a world where everybody just knows how to use crypto and it's on everyone's smartphone, you just send the crypto. And so you might think, oh gosh, well, if that's the case, what does that mean for XRP? My gosh, what's going to happen if everybody's just moving crypto? And so here's what I say, and this is what's always been so fascinating to me. It's like the original idea for a cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, it was envisioned by Satoshi Nakamoto. Bitcoin is just supposed to be a peer-to-peer cash system. Now, obviously, that is not working today. I got that. But that was the original vision, and it's funny to me that that could be among the last that's actually adopted, because instead, if you just have XRP that's used in the plumbing, you don't need a mass adoption of cryptocurrency on the whole. You don't need that. I mean, yeah, it means other than to grow a bigger pie just in a general sense for liquidity, but it's a bigger hurdle to try and get your customers specifically to be onboarded for your use case. If it's just happening in the background and you can take advantage of it, that's a very different type of situation right there. And so that's why that use case, it's among the very first use case for cryptocurrency. And I think XRP as a bridge currency, I believe it is the first to be used in enterprise grade software anyway. So what happens, though, is as the world evolves and things adopt, like you might think was people get more savvy and they're using their own crypto, they're moving crypto around themselves, assuming that is ultimately what happens, which I suspect we'll just keep leaning towards. Eventually, they're just all going to realize, well, what the hell do I need the remittance firm for, right? And so at that point, then you could say, well, what happens to XRP if you don't need the remittance firm and it's a bridge currency? To which my response is, well, if you don't need the remittance firm anymore, but XRP is already in place up to that point in time, and it's become the standard, so it's very liquid. Why wouldn't it be a cryptocurrency that people are just using on their own? Like, it doesn't mean XRP goes away, even if that happens. And then that also, if you're worried about that still, then you got to assume there wouldn't be any other use cases along the way, which already isn't true even in 2021. So to me, it's a non-issue here, but it's worth being aware of and thinking through. It's a fun little critical thinking exercise here, but yeah, no, you're not going to have Bitcoin in its current state, and I don't know if this will ever change. I'm not convinced it will. You're not going to have it knock out remittance firms and banks. Not for the purpose of moving money around the planet, converting from one fiat currency to another. No. That's not happening. And you're never going to have one cryptocurrency adopted in place of all fiat currencies the world over and harmoniously governed by roughly 200 countries on the planet. Like, that is not what's going to happen. That's like an unsophisticated, childish way of looking at the world. Anyway, Peace continues. This makes remittance companies critical for El Salvador. And while Bitcoin adoption could threaten their business in the long term, they seem unwilling to try to integrate it into their operations while they still can. Now, Kenneth Suchoski, I'm going to assume I'm saying that wrong, Suchosk. I'm going to call him Ken. We're just going to call him Ken for the video. Ken, a U.S. payments analyst in autonomous research, believes that one of the challenges to this adoption is the highly cash-intensive nature of El Salvador. Speaking to Reuters, he said the following, and here's a quote. For Western Union and some of the other remittance providers, keep in mind that most of the volume in the remittance industry is going from developed markets to emerging markets, primarily to people, families, and friends that operate in cash. Right, and so that could slow things down too, which is why in the case of XRP, it's used in the plumbing to convert from one fiat currency to the other. It's not to try and get them to hold XRP. Of course, not that I'd mind people increasingly holding XRP, I'm just saying. But anyway, he added, to the extent that Bitcoin isn't adopted and there's not widespread acceptance, these remittance providers are still going to be relevant for the years to come. Yeah, absolutely. I don't think that remittance firms are going to get knocked out anytime soon. And if they're going to continue to exist at some point, yeah, I don't know if it would take decades or less, I don't know. But at some point, yeah, they're going to have to adapt, I would think. Otherwise, the margins will just continue to erode. And that's just what happens as technology progresses. I mean, how many companies out there specialize in repair of typewriters? They exist though, but did you know they do exist? There's almost none on the planet. There's almost none. And so you just see them phased out over time, but it can take a very, very, very long time. And so it's not like this technology exists and so everyone just adopts it in unison. That's not how the world works. But yeah, you're going to see remittance firms continue to have trouble if they don't adapt as time passes, right? But anyway, Peace continues. Granted, Bitcoin still accounts for a very small percentage of the $500 billion global remittance industry. Ken puts this number below 1%. Despite this, global remittance giants have tried in one way or another to dabble in crypto, albeit not in El Salvador. MoneyGram is famous for its partnership with Ripple and use of XRP, although this partnership ended this year. And I'll pause right there. I'm not going to go in depth in this video. I've talked about this quite a bit on the channel, though. That was because the SEC decided to go after Ripple. There's regulatory uncertainty, and it just completely devastated the relationship. But they have stated, both MoneyGram and Ripple, they've publicly stated that they're willing to reevaluate that in the future. So anyway, piece continues. Its latest initiative is a partnership with CoinMe, the largest registered crypto cash exchange service in the United States. And together, they allow users to easily buy and sell Bitcoin at 12,000 MoneyGram locations. And in a statement, the remittance company said, quote, "We've built a bridge to connect Bitcoin and other digital currencies to local fiat currency. As crypto and digital currencies rise in prominence, a core barrier to further growth is the on and off ramps to local fiat currency." Exactly. And so what can help solve that problem? A bridge, perhaps? An XRP bridge? Yes, that's exactly what's needed. Because all that's happened, because like the envision with Bitcoin, it's like, oh my gosh, everybody will just adopt Bitcoin and we'll all harmoniously use it. And we don't need to have 11 billion different types of fiat currencies. It'll just be Bitcoin. But that's not how things evolved. Instead, you got competitors to Bitcoin. You got Ethereum, you've got XRP, and just go on. There's over 8,000 cryptocurrencies used for different things. And most of them used for nothing, frankly. But still, what happened is more silos were created that don't interoperate with one another. And so the solution is you need to be able to bridge them and convert them from one to the other. And that's what XRP is being positioned for here. And so it's just so funny to me seeing this headline. They don't want to add Bitcoin because they fear for their extinction. In the short term, it would be bad for business, it looks like. And in the long term, I still don't see how Bitcoin's going to be used as any, not even a bridge. Like, no one's even positioning it really as a bridge. But even if it were used instead of remittance firms, I just don't see that happens unless you substantially improve the technology, which is why I think if that ever does happen, and it actually may, it could just be with XRP. Why not? Or some other cryptocurrency, but why not XRP? It's blazing fast, right? And it costs fractions of a penny for each individual transaction. So I'm just sitting there looking at that and the low energy consumption. I'm like, no, it's not going to be Bitcoin that knocks it out. If anything, it's going to be something that is, it's either going to be XRP or something roughly as good. Or better. It doesn't matter, but it would have to be at least as good, wouldn't you think? So interesting food for thought here. But tell you what, in the short term, I'm not worried about XRP. What you see remittance firms don't want to touch Bitcoin, but you do see remittance firms that are customers of Ripple that are paying Ripple to utilize XRP as a bridge currency via their on-demand liquidity technology. Connecting with market makers the world over, cryptocurrency exchanges. And it's fantastic that they're paying to do that, and they don't even want to touch Bitcoin. Well, how about that? I am not a financial advisor. You should not buy or sell anything because of anything that I say or write. That would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo.